Pardon my language, but some people need to grow the f up. Every time I hear the term Yuri bait, I grow more and more to despise the term. Mainly because typically whenever I hear people say that something is Yuri bait, it always turns this aspect of people believe that something is in a character that's not necessarily there. Two female characters are being friendly with each other. Must be Yuri. We have to have this. I like these two female characters. They have to get together. Now, I'm fine with shipping. I'm fine with the aspect that two characters look absolutely adorable to each other, and I would wish them the well. I mean, in this particular case, what we're talking about here is Lycoris Recoil. Chisato and Takina would have loved to see them together. Would have loved them to march off into the sunset, kissing and all that stuff. I don't care. I love the two characters, and I think they'd be fantastic to each other, but honestly myself, didn't see it. I seen two girls that really like each other. Two girls that grew really, really close to each other. But I think where it gets frustrating for me, and like I said, where I start to hate that term more and more and more, is the expectation that it places upon something. The shipping aspect placing too much emphasis on two characters, and thus whenever it turns out that it does not go the way that people want, they get angry. Now, we do that with everything. Harems. Shoot, we ship harem characters all the time. That's what the writers want us to do. And yes, whenever it gets to the end of the story, that typically means a lot of people are angry. But man, we're going to some next level stuff here. We are going into some next level stuff with specifically Lycoris Recoil, and I could not be more frustrated. I am to a point now where I am saying things that I hate saying, like touch grass. Like, people, go touch grass. Go out. I'm fearful to say this, thinking about this, but go out and actually experience real people. Experience how people interact with each other. I grew up around a lot of people, obviously, going to school, public school, and all that kind of stuff, and I had a lot of girl friends. And whenever they were together, like more than one, they were really close. They were very lovey. They were very intimate. Not that they were in love, it's just they get... I'm sorry to say this to a lot of guys out there that don't experience females often, and it feels like it reading this stupid thread of replies, which I'll get into in a minute. It feels like some people just have never encountered more than one female person, and I hate to get meaner, that's not their mom. Women act differently than men when they're together. Specifically teenagers and stuff, but it's different. And so when I see two female characters like Chisato and Takina having fun together, it's familiar to me. That's why I loved Lycoris Recoil so much. It felt natural. It felt like these two grew a bond to each other. Not that they were trying to make out whenever the scene changed. But again, I wouldn't have minded if it actually happened. That's not my point. The point is that it didn't show it, and thus everybody is angry at the ending. And that's where we get into what has caused this rant that I'm going off on before I even get to it. The scriptwriter for episode 4, 8, 9, 11, 12, and 13 made a tweet saying, I did the script work for these episodes, and I hope you all enjoy it, kind of thing. And I knew, again, that there was a lot of anger around the ending of the series, not actually following through with this idea of it being a Yuri. But the replies in this thing, the more I read them, the more and more and more I get frustrated. And it's to the point where they actually blocked all replies on the tweet because it was getting so nasty. You have death threats. You have people claiming that he's been in Yard and that he's Majima's plaything. I'm trying to think some really good terms here for YouTube, even though maybe even bleeping out the very beginning might still demonetize it. A lot of really, really horrific, nasty, threatening messages over Chisato and Takina not making out by the end of the show. And that's where it gets absolutely ridiculous. Again, like I said before, grow up, people. Go touch grass. And again, I want to say interact with actual human beings so you understand how humans work, but at the same time, I'm afraid of these people being around people. Some really disturbing minds. And yes, granted, people act on the internet differently than act in real life. Obviously, people making these stupid comments probably don't act that way around real people, but it still gives you to find disgusting reaction that people have to things not going their way. And again, that's where I go back to the whole idea of the Yuri bait concept. It's funny, it's a shipping thing, but at the same time, it's people seeing something in a story and getting so attached to it that the point in which it doesn't happen, they get overly angry. They get irrational about how they act. And it gets me to the point where I get really frustrated with even people shipping things to begin with, because I can see how some people in the community take it way too far. And again, like I've mentioned before, this is nothing new. This happens with so many other series. I mean, does anybody remember the controversy around Darling in the Franxx when a certain scene happened between Ichigo and the main character, and what happened on the internet? there was death threats being placed upon the studio and everybody around it because they were so angry at what Ichigo did. It's just a damn character in a fake show with a story that has no meaning to the real world. I'm calming myself. Reel it back, Andrew. It was so crazy because as I was looking into these comments regarding this writer, the script writer, which does, let me be perfectly clear, it doesn't make any sense that people were angry at this person. Yes, he wrote the script, but it's not as if it was his property. The decision making in there is very restricted. The major steps in the story was probably solidified before he even touched the script. You're gonna have this happen, this happen, this happen, this is gonna be over here, and we want to end it like this. Highly doubt he had any decision making whatsoever to who ends up with who dies, who lives, how, the major points of it. There's just a script writer. There's lots of comments about him with Majima and how Majima is dominated him, how some people believe that they should have wrote it the way that the audience wanted. No, don't. If any scriptwriter, if anybody that owns a property is listening to these tweets, no, I do not want any anime to go the way that the audience wants. I want it to go the way the writer wants it, the creator, because otherwise you'll never have your expectations subverted. Everything will be boring. It'll all play out how you feel it's going to play out. I don't want anything to go based on the audience. That's like that whole thing I talked about quite a while back where there was a Kickstarter for a make your own anime and it was voter based what was going to be in the anime and how things would play out. No, I don't want to have anything to do with a project like that because I want a writer, a creative mind to decide how something plays out. And I will disagree with a lot of the stories. I will be upset by some stories. I will wish that it went one direction that didn't go. But in the end, I experienced somebody else's story. I don't want my story. If that's the case, go write your own story. I'll write my own story. And I think the comment that I seen the most in this thread was people believing that they were liars. The scriptwriter was a liar. That everything said that this will be Chisato and Takina together at the end, and thus you lied to us all. Nothing said that you're getting that. Nothing indicated that that will be the end case. And again, that goes back to my whole statement earlier. Go touch grass and meet people because people act like this in the real life and it doesn't mean they're in love. It just means that they have a bond and a friendship that, yes, might be very intimate, it might be very close, and it might be very private. But that doesn't mean it's physical and that they're ready to be married to each other. Oh my God. This took me a while to figure out. Here's the last one I'm going to go over. Here's the last big, stupid outrage that I heard about Lycoris Recoil in this thread. And it took me a while to really register what it was saying here, because some of it was in Japanese, some of it was English. This is global, by the way. This is not just Americans being evil. This is not just Japan being evil. This is a lot of people in a lot of places and a lot of languages. I seen pictures of this final scene with Chisato and Majima. And for those that don't know, there's a scene where they're sitting down and Chisato needs a break and Majima allows her to have a break because they're kind of rivals. And at some point, Chisato has a drink and she's drinking it and she thinks it tastes interesting. And she hands it to Majima and Majima tastes it and he's like, oh, this is nasty. People are mad because they think that the writer chose to have Majima steal Chisato's first kiss from Takina. How horrible. Obviously, this guy's obsessed with Majima. It's just, grow up. Just grow up. Just grow up. That's my final statement. Just grow up. I think people, you can be angry that something doesn't go your way. You can be upset. You can be disappointed. That's fine. Air your grievances, but be respectful of people. Be human and respect other people as humans. And again, the scriptwriter probably had nothing to do with the final decisions, but how everything played out. They probably just filled in the gaps. It's utterly disrespectful to treat other people so terribly, to do death threats, to demean them, to talk about how he's some broken person that obviously was NTR'd. Treat other people respectfully and just move on with your life. But anyways, hope you guys enjoyed my rant. If you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. Comment. Let me know what you think of this whole situation. Does this upset you? It's one of those things where it really does make you go, man, I hate being a part of some communities. But again, I I usually typically look at the bigger picture, that this is like, I don't know, 10 some people that are just being stupid, and it's nothing into the grand scale of how many people absolutely loved this series and love the creators and what they do. But additionally, if you have not already and you like my content, hit that subscribe button so you get all of it. I do news, reviews, first impressions, top list discussions like this. If it's anime, it's pretty much here. Additionally, if you want to support the channel more, we have a Patreon link, a tips link, and a super thanks button down below. I greatly appreciate everybody that does, and y'all take care.